For those of you that just came in, there's a handout here. I like to kind of put everything out in front of me so I can follow along to what I'm thinking about. There's a lot to talk about. And the second sheet, there's another sheet about parent pressuring from Splash Magazine, which we thought was a great article. We wanted to get that out to everybody. So just wanted to start off and ask, how many of you guys had a chance to come in last week on Wednesday and listen to Brad Arnett talk? I thought that Brad did a tremendous job. A lot of information there that you guys can put into play right away. I thought he did a great job. There are sheets up here. If you didn't have a chance to come listen to that talk, there's information on the table up here. He had a nice chart about trying to make nutrition as simple as possible. That talk's also on YouTube, and we can get you the link if you'd like to watch it. It would be well worth your time, I think. We wanted to try and do some education things towards the end of the season here that would help you guys as swimmers and parents prepare for peak performance at the end of the year. And we thought that nutrition was an obvious thing. The second talk is going to center around tapering, but figured that I couldn't talk just about tapering if we didn't also talk about season planning. So we're going to talk a little bit about season planning, lead into taper, effects of taper, what affects a taper, things that you guys can do to make sure that we swim well at the end of the year, some different things like that. So you can kind of follow right along. The title of my talk is Season Planning, the Key to Peak Performance. I like the same saying that Brad uses a lot also, is failure to plan is planning to fail. And I'm going to start off, why season planning? Why create a season plan? We need to create a blueprint for future planning. How do you know what you've worked on in the past if you don't plan your training? You need to provide a focus and build progression throughout the season and throughout a career. I think the only way to get better from season to season or year to year is to be able to do a little bit more each season, whether that's a little more volume, it might be a little bit more volume in a certain energy system, it might be adding dry land, it might be adding an extra workout, but there's got to be some progression. And I think that if you haven't planned that out, then how are you going to know if you've done more from year to year? And I think the final reason to set up a season plan is as a chance to reflect on the success and failure of the season. Chance to be able to go back, look at the plan, see what went well and what didn't go well, and what went well for certain kids and maybe not for others. Hard to take a look back if you don't have anything planned out. So you want to create a blueprint, provide focus and build progression, and have a chance to be able to reflect on what went well and what didn't go well. I think that I was a pretty accomplished swimmer coming up. I swam at the University of Wisconsin. I was a finalist at U.S. Nationals, and I thought I was a pretty accomplished swimmer. I thought I knew a lot about swimming. Swimming was the single most time-consuming thing that I've ever done in my life. I swam since I was 8 until I was in my early 20s, and been to a lot of pools, a lot of places, swam a lot of workouts, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do after swimming. Decided I'd give coaching a try, but then realized that I really didn't know a whole lot about how to tell other people what they needed to do to be better swimmers. And I think that certain kids really need to know or would benefit from a lot of this information and knowing what to expect and why we're doing something. And some kids don't want to know at all. And I think that I was one person that I think would have benefited from knowing why I'm going to do 10 400s fly, why I'm going to do whatever it is. So, as a young coach, because of who I knew at USA Swimming, I had the opportunity to go out to Colorado Springs with a small select group of coaches. There were 5 or 6 of us, and we got to spend a week working with Jonty Skinner and the USA National Resident Team. The resident program at the time was kind of the inception of postgraduate swimming. There weren't really any places for postgrads or professionals to go. So the USA Swimming and the USOC started the National Resident Team in Colorado Springs. And, because of who I know, I got to go out there and spend a week, and I learned a tremendous amount from Jonty Skinner. He was the head of the resident program, about how to plan a season, how to focus on doing different things at different times of the year, why We wanted to do it in a certain way, and it seemed to all make sense. And so I owe a lot to John D. Skinner for helping me kind of figure out somewhat what's going on. I think looking at, before we can talk about, setting up a season plan and talking about tapering, I wanted to just talk to everybody a little bit about training, and real briefly, because we could be here for a long time, but talking about energy systems, what we're trying to train, and why we're doing them, and what determines what energy system we're in. We've got 7 different energy systems that we're trying to train as senior swimmers. Looking down the list, the first one is recovery. It's warm up and warm downs. Heart rate would be under 140. It's stuff that you're going to be doing every day. The second energy system that we're looking at is called EN1, and these are all, the first 4 are aerobic. The next 2, 5, and 6 are anaerobic, and the third one is an alactate system. And I'm not going to go into, what drives those kinds of things, but I just want to give you a basis for what we're talking about. The EN1 would be a low-end aerobic. It would be something that's also done every day. Your heart rate's maybe 140 to 150. The third one is EN2. It's an anaerobic threshold. Your heart rate's a little higher, 150 to 170. Can be done every day for some degree. We usually have 2 or 3 workouts throughout the week, depending on what time of the year, where that's kind of the focus. It's a kind of swimming that's challenging for the kids, but they can do it for 45 minutes to an hour before they're really had enough. EN3 would be VO2 max, or maximum oxygen uptake. That heart rate's 180 or above. That's getting to be pretty hard swimming. In between those kinds of workouts, if we did one on Tuesday, we'd need at least 24 to 48 hours before we can come back and do some kind of swimming like that again. So it's pretty taxing. The anaerobic systems, SP1, our maximum heart rates. We're asking the kids to go as hard as they can with no recovery in between sets. So we'll say maybe we're going to go 8/100s from a dive on 5 minutes. You're supposed to go as hard as you can for as long as you can, and no recovery in between. Let the lactic acid build up in their body, and try and teach the muscles to buffer that and deal with the pain. The anaerobic system SP2 is pretty much the same, except we're allowing easy swimming in between. So what we're trying to do there is build the lactic acid up in the body, give it a short break to try and clear as much of it as you can out before we do another one. So pretty similar there, but really, really taxing swimming. We're looking at 48 hours to 72 hours in between sets like that. The last thing would be SP3. It's short sprints, the stuff that's done every day. The kids will always warm up. We always try to do it right after the warm up so that they're fresh. It's maybe 20, 25s where we're asking them to sprint to 15 meters or kick underwater or something explosive when they're doing that. So kind of in summary, what determines which energy system you're training? It's heart rate and the amount of rest you have in between repeats and sets. When we're planning out a season, we've got 5 different phases. I put something down here for a 24-week season. That's typically what we do in the winter. It's about 24 weeks long. 5 phases. And the first phase that we're looking at would be aerobic development, and that's kind of the getting in shape phase when everybody's kind of sore. The goal is just to try and get everybody going again. And we're spending time reviewing stroke drills and refining skills and kind of getting ready for the next phase. That usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks time. Phase 2 would be aerobic endurance. That's kind of our longest part of the season, anywhere from 7 to 12 weeks. Focus would be on that EN1 and EN2 energy systems, so the lower end aerobic systems. This phase ends with our highest volume of training, so we try to schedule this around Christmas break or the training trips that we go on in the summer, but it's pretty high volume. It's our longest training cycle.